I know a lot of people are like, you hate the police. You bag on the police all the time. You never show the police doing anything good. When the police operate with bravery and honor, I would love nothing more than to show the police operating in bravery and honor. And tonight we have an opportunity to show police officers operating with bravery and honor and operating right when you get into, because again, it shouldn't be any surprise at this point to anybody watching this, right? I am not an abolitionist of we just need to get rid of the police. What happened in Nashville on Christmas Day to me is like, here's an example of why we need armed police officers. It's just we don't need armed police officers showing up at a 1:30 in the morning call about an idling car and end up with someone like Andre Hill shot dead. That is just when you maybe need somebody to come over and go, it's an idling car. Okay. And maybe knock on that guy's doors, meaning not Andre Hill's door, the neighbor's door, and like, dude, it's an idling car. Go back to sleep. And we wouldn't be having conversations like we started the show with Columbus, Ohio. Jennifer, I'm going to roll the clip. What this is this is body cam video out of Nashville. I know you got a chance to preview it because you can't see live what we're showing when we show the clips. We're still trying to figure that part out. If someone knows how to do that in OBS, by the way, tips at malcontentment.com. I know I would love it because I haven't been able to figure out. We have figured out how it's the audio part. Anyway, I digress on that. Trigger warning. Some of this is tough to watch because there's an explosion, there's police, there's yelling, there's screaming, there are people that are running who are terrified. This is body cam video. We're not showing the whole video because it's like 20 minutes long, but we're showing the most important chunk. What do you think, Jennifer? About 3.5 minutes or so, or something like that. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and roll the clip, and then we're going to unpack what we know about Andrew Q, ironically, Q Warner.
Fire medical down here just went off. Fire medical signal 10. Whew. Central ASAP.
Take a while for you guys to work.
421, it's in 4. Oh, good. Oh, good. 423, I got 421 with me. One south there. Command, I need all resources out on this call. Check in with your 10-4 ASAP. 423, I'm 424. Command, I want a roll call of all central personnel ASAP, starting with 11.
411, I'm 10-4.
15-4. Where y'all need us? On the second and Broadway. Closed until the roll call is completed.
police, you have everyone except for 425.
425.
Correct.
226, you got my 423 coming to you. Where do you need us? Hey, and second and broad. Command to 425, are you 10-4?
He's in 4.
Are you guys okay?
Correct.
No, my guys.
Where's your car?
How you doing?
Okay, go to your car. What's going on?
214, myself and 215 are all done.
I mean, it's a hard video to watch. I mean, this is domestic terrorism. If somebody puts a bomb and blows themselves up, we call those people terrorists. We don't call them misguided. We don't call them mentally ill because they're white and happen to strap a bomb around themselves and blow themselves up. They are a terrorist, and we will call them a terrorist as part of the ethics of our news organization. And let's mince no words. Andrew Q, so ironic, Warner was a terrorist.
Yes, absolutely.
One of the things I would like to point out, never been a police officer. I was an EMT. And one of the things, I've seen some questions like, why didn't the police go running down, right? There's people running and they're yelling at the people to run towards them. Why didn't they go run down and help? In a terrorist attack, and it's very interesting because, right, you see kind of like, there's this very methodical prep. There's the walk, up, and then you hear the breathing go up, right? As soon as they can see down that street, everything changes, right? Because in their minds now, it's like, okay, this was damn what just happened here. In a terrorist attack, what is done a lot of times is there's a secondary bomb that's set up. Eric Rudolph did this. Who was if you're not familiar with Eric Rudolph, he's the person that did the 1996 Olympic bombing, and he bombed 2, 3, or 4 abortion clinics. He would set up secondary explosions for the purpose of killing and maiming the first responders that came in to rescue people. And that is why the police were not progressing down that road.
Yeah, I don't know. The Christmas thing to me is absolutely insane. And did they ever ascertain what the end game was of that? I mean, I know I saw reports come out today where he was like, I'm going to be the most famous person Nashville is ever going to, remember. He said something like that to his father, but I wasn't entirely sure of what was the goal of that particular bombing.
Well, and I think that's the part that they're trying to piece together. One of the things that I will talk, because the editorial board, as you know, we were discussing like within that morning, my view was after learning about the AT&T switching station there, and I want to rip apart some of the Q conspiracies that are floating around because it's so batshit crazy. Yeah. When I learned that there was the AT&T switching facility that was there, it immediately just was like, this is about 5G. This is somebody that has ingested too much misinformation about 5G and cell phones. And this is what they went after. And there's been a couple of news stories to say that is basically the direction that the investigation is going in. What we know about Andrew Warner is 63 years old. He was, by all reports, tech savvy. His father worked for AT&T through. He died in 2012 of cancer. There is some implications that I've read that he blames cellular exposure for the death of his father to cancer. So that all of a sudden kind of become woohoo, big red flag number, a long list of red flags. Yeah. He fits another part of the profile in that a lot of his neighbors are doing the whole, he was really quiet and just kind of kept to himself kind of thing, which we hear this all of the time with these. It's interesting that he's 63. Typically they're white, typically they're male, but typically they're under 40. So the 63 thing is, this whole thing about playing the song Downtown has everybody scratching their head. Like, was this some secret message or something that's in there?
Yeah.
And my understanding is through DNA evidence that they have confirmed he blew himself up with his RV.
That's because I don't know. I can't say anything other than people that do that are just cowards, like don't want to suffer the consequences of their actions, and they're cowards. Um, it was just the most bizarre thing. It was the totally like 2020 thing to wake up to on Christmas.
Yep.
Um, I mean, like, and I'm hesitant for all the people who are like, we've almost made it. It's almost over. No. Um, yeah, so I wasn't entirely sure what the backstory was. It makes sense now that people were saying he had been talking about his father, and he wanted to be the most famous person Nashville ever remembered, or something along those lines. Uh, but we have to, you were talking about the like conspiracy theories that were spawning from this, and some of them were being shared in the chat the other day, and they're just absolutely insane. And the direction people are running with this is just like mind boggling to me. How do you have the time to sit home and come up with this?
It really is. And like some of it is disprovable in like a 2-second Google search. Like
Yeah.
one of the conspiracy theories that I heard was this. There are Dominion system voting machines that have been hidden inside. Somebody just wrote a novel of a comment. Like
Yeah.
there's just a wall of text that somebody has probably just cut and pasted from somewhere. I can't read that wall of text, but it just jumped out on the screen here. People know what I'm talking about. So that there's a whole bunch of Dominion voting system machines that were in that building. And Cerebus, Cerebus is a terrible, right? They're corporate raiders. And Cerebus used to own that building. And Cerebus owns AT&T, or used to own AT&T. Cerebus used to own AT&T, and Cerebus owns Dominion Voting Systems. And this was an attempt to destroy these voting machines before Donald Trump and his minions and Linwood and who's the other batshit crazy woman, Powell,
How?
right? Can
Yeah.
get their hands on him, and that's what this was about. So let's tear all of this apart. Cerebus never owned the building. AT&T has always been a publicly traded company. So a private equity firm could have never owned AT&T. Cerebus is not owned by Cerebus doesn't own Dominion Voting Systems. Dominion Voting Systems is owned by a private equity company called Slate, but they're not owned by Cerebus. You can figure that out in a 5 second. They changed the Google results. There's this thing called the Internet Wayback Machine, and like you can go to the Internet Wayback Machine. They changed that to, well, you just go to the next one and the next one. You just keep going down that rabbit hole. I realize for some people I'm just wasting my breath here. That building, like where all the computer equipment and stuff is, and the switches, because that's basically what it is a big switching station for telecommunications. The building is hardened. None of the equipment inside is damaged or destroyed. The reason that the cell system collapsed, and I want to get into this too, 911 in 3 states and air traffic control in the region, is because power was lost, not because the equipment inside was lost. This building, because it's critical infrastructure, was designed to take an attack like this. Oh! So it rolled over to generators, and when the generators ran out of fuel, that's it, the end. The system went down, and well, why couldn't they just go down there with more fuel? Because there was a bunch of police and FBI and ATF agents going, nobody can go down there. But we got to go. No, you don't understand. Investigation, you can't go down there. And they're still working on reconnecting the main power back into that building. I believe that actually got accomplished today.
That's insane. That's insane. I mean, the availability of information on the internet is both like, I mean, there's so much good to it, and then there's so much bad, because the misinformation that is like just spewed about like fact, that people are desperately clinging to, that results in this kind of like radicalization, to where people do this kind of stuff. I don't know what the fix is for that. What people, I just don't know, but I just know that people, studies have been done that people are more prone to actually taking in things that are misinformation versus fact. Um, so I don't know what steps can be taken to maybe neutralize that, but this kind of like ongoing radicalization through these forums and QAnon and these conspiracy theories, I mean, they're really dangerous, and we see the manifestation of that in the Nashville bombing.
Yes, and then of course the question gets into, who else is out there? And I read a little bit of wisdom on Twitter, which I was like, ooh, I didn't think about this. Everybody calls them lone wolves, but they're all talking on the same message board in the internet.
Yeah,
So are they really lone wolves? And here, look, I'll put on my tinfoil hat for a minute, right? Let me go conspiracy theory. I'll put my tinfoil hat on. It's not lost on me that 911 systems were knocked out in 3 states, not total across 3 states, but knocked out in 3 states. Air traffic control was knocked out. Hospital communications were knocked out. Police emergency communications were knocked out. Was this a dry run for something bigger come January?
I know, and you had mentioned something about that on the comments on the weekend, and I didn't even at that point, I was like, I can't even handle that right now. Like, I'm thinking about that because it's not, to me, that doesn't seem like that's not feasible. I've been talking a little bit about these protests as kind of a dry run for something larger to see what people can potentially get away with as we get closer to inauguration. So to me, that doesn't seem tinfoily out of line, full on conspiracy theory.
And when we say that police communications are cut off, just to clarify, that isn't officer to officer radio communication or dispatch. It is the broader communication network that was taken down, say to go to the Tennessee State Police and go, help, we just had a bombing. That was the part of the communication networks that was taken down. And certainly taking out air traffic control creates a big problem if you say wanted to fly in federal assets to monitor and listen to some kind of armed activity that was going on against the government.
Yeah, no, I really hope that we're wrong and we can look back in a month and be like, oh, we were just got caught up and we're being crazy. But I'm not prepared to take that step now because I don't think there's anything that's off the table at this particular moment in time, because you're starting to see increased desperation among his supporters as we get closer to inauguration. So how that manifests, I'm not entirely sure, but I just don't think that anything is off the table at this point.
Right. Well, you go into 5 stages of grief, and we've talked about this before, right? You have denial, and then you have anger, and there is still a lot of people that are in denial. They haven't even started to move to anger. The good news is of what I have seen, and we saw this on September 26th with, we're going to have 10,000 Proud Boys come here, and 500 showed up, and it was like 200 of them were reporters from all around the world expecting the Civil War to break out in the United States. And they left 2 hours early and literally went to the mall in Vancouver, Washington. And this was the start of the Civil War. But it's very clear that we are in open sectarian violence in this country, and there is this simmering hatred that is growing. And the 2-party system is starting to fray because we have one party right now that just isn't at any point. We haven't had our do you have no, oh God, I'm killing the quote. You help me out here.
What
no shame, right? Do you have no shame? The really famous quote to McCarthy during the McCarthy era, when they were ripping apart this young veteran soldier, and it was Adelaide Smith. Adelaide Smith had this, basically like, wait a minute, we've is this now the bar? And the country went, no, you know what? This isn't the bar. We've had enough. And that was the end. And we have nobody in the position from the Republican Party that anyone's listening to that's going, okay, here's the bar. No more. You got to stop.
Yeah, it's because they've enabled him the entire time. So even if somebody were to step up, who the hell is going to listen to them when they enabled him for 4 years and just let him walk all over everything? Yeah. I mean, you see, like, even the slight turn by people like Mitch McConnell, he's now viewed as he's been shunned by Trump. So any kind of turn away from, you call him dear leader, is, met with this kind of like rampant hostility and shunning. What's
So I
particularly
was told it was Steve that I was listening to on Freight Broker this morning, and it was Steve who was, lamenting kind of like, I don't know what Trump's doing at this point. I don't know what the end game is, but he's disappeared. I mean, that was literally a word that Steve used today, right?
Yeah.
That he has disappeared, and he does see. It's so bizarre to me, right? He is not acting as president. He's not doing anything for president. He has not called the governor of Tennessee or the mayor of Nashville. And of course, my joke is, well, he's just still waiting to find out if Andrew Warner voted in the election and who he voted for.
Yes. No, exactly. Did he even tweet about it when it happened? Because I looked a little bit on Christmas Day and I didn't see anything other than American Witness and then like a bunch of voter fraud stuff.
Nope. It's like it hasn't even happened. Nope.
It's like, it's not my responsibility anymore, Like,
but I want this job for 4 more years.
Yes, it's mine. I'm going to have, a virtual re-inauguration on January 20th.
Because I like executing more people in my final year as president than all of the states in the United States combined. Yes, including Texas, which I read that. When I read that story, I was like, I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it. I actually wasted a lot of time going down the rabbit hole to validate those numbers.
Yeah. I feel like I don't want to get too far out of line bashing him, but I just like, I have nothing positive to say about him and the job that he's done with this country for the past 4 years. Nothing. He was unqualified and unfit when he assumed the position. He has proven that throughout. And now that he has lost, he's gone into complete man-child mode and is basically pouting in the corner until he's done and not doing anything.
It'll be very interesting to see what happens on January 20th. And if ultimately, if the Marine Corps contingent there is going to have to metaphorically or literally drag him out of the White House, because he will no longer be commander in chief at 1201, and the Marine contingent there will no longer have to listen to him. They will answer to Joe Biden. Now, on the other side of the coin, I don't exactly see Joe Biden making the spectacle of dragging Donald Trump out of the White House physically if it comes to that.
I don't either, and I think it would take something pretty dramatic for that to happen. So, but I don't put it past Donald Trump to not engage in some form of theater to get attention, to, on his way out. They talk about like this, whole kind of like dramatic entrance. I can see him doing like a dramatic exit.
So the one thing we don't know is we don't know about Andrew Warner's politics. Said he was very private about this. He didn't have much of a social media footprint, which ties into that recluse. They're tracking me, 5G, right? It ties all into that QAnon BS. But I think this does point out, left, right, in between, the danger of the radicalization and the misinformation that is being spread in this country, and how many more Andrew Warners. Because one of the other things is, Tennessee Bureau of Investigations, the TBI, was like, this guy was not on our radar. Although apparently he was like a little bit on the FBI's radar, but like way off on the side.
Wow. Yeah. That's alarming, because how many more are out there floating underneath the radar like he was?
Yeah. And with that, on that happy note, let's go on our last story of the night.